Ladies and gentlemen, they told you to think positive. They told you to visualize success. They told you that you are your thoughts. But what they never told you, what no one dared whisper, is that your thoughts are not tame creatures to be leashed with slogans. They are wild spirits, born from deeper caves than reason dares to enter. To control your thoughts, you must not wrestle them into silence. You must first understand where they come from, and that journey does not begin on the surface. It begins far below, where the self you show to the world meets the self you keep in the shadows. They never told you that your thoughts, those things you cling to as if they were the purest expression of your identity, are often not yours at all. You assume that what arises in your mind must have been born there, crafted by your will, authored by your true self. But the truth is far more unsettling and far more liberating once understood. Much of what you think, what you believe, what you fear, even what you desire, did not originate within the silent sanctum of your soul. These thoughts were seeded in you long ago, perhaps before you were even capable of choosing. They were planted by parents whose voices shaped your first internal dialogue. They came from the culture that wrapped itself around you like invisible fabric, telling you what is right, what is wrong, what is beautiful, what is shameful. The education you received, the books you read, the religion you were given or rejected, the television shows you absorbed as a child, all of these became architects of the landscape of your mind. And so, as you walk through your inner world, you are often walking through a city built by other people. You are navigating a structure designed not for your freedom, but for your adaptation. And within this structure, many of your thoughts are not free, flowing expressions of your being. They are echoes, echoes of a teacher's disapproval, echoes of a father's anger, echoes of a society's definition of success. You think you want what you want, but do you? Or have you simply inherited desire like a piece of worn clothing passed down through generations? To truly control your thoughts, or better yet, to live in conscious relationship with them, you must first become a detective of your own mind. You must question each idea that arises. Where did this come from? Why do I believe this? Whose voice is this truly? This is not a cynical act. It is not rejection for the sake of rebellion. It is an act of deep self-respect. Because until you know what is truly yours, you cannot know who you truly are. There is power in realizing that many of your negative thoughts, your self-doubt, your harsh inner critic, your secret shame, were never yours to begin with. You did not create them, you inherited them, and what is inherited can be examined. What is examined can be rewritten, but only if you are brave enough to face the reality that your mind is not a sealed vault. It is a hole of mirrors, filled with reflections of voices past. To find your true voice among them, you must be willing to listen carefully, strip away the borrowed words, and speak from a place deeper than memory. They never told you that controlling your thoughts begins not with domination, but with discernment. Not with force, but with awareness. And that awareness, if nurtured with patience, can set you free. They told you to banish your negative thoughts, to push them away, to silence them, to replace them instantly with something cheerful, something productive, something acceptable. And you tried. You shoved the anger down, you buried the jealousy, you masked the anxiety with forced smiles and scheduled routines. For a while, it even seemed to work. The storm quieted, the waters of your mind stilled. But that stillness was not peace, it was silence born from fear. You did not control the storm, you merely exiled it. Repression is not mastery, it is disconnection. When you repress a thought, you do not dissolve it. You disown it. You cast it into the wilderness of the unconscious, where it does not vanish, but grows darker, sharper, more urgent. What we exile does not leave us, it waits. It waits beneath the surface like a displaced king, stripped of his throne but not his power. And eventually, he returns, often in disguise. He returns in sudden outbursts, in unexpected anxieties, in dreams that unsettle us, in behaviors we cannot explain. He returns as projection, when we see in others what we cannot admit in ourselves. You think you have controlled your mind because it no longer screams, but what you've done is built a prison within yourself, and in doing so, you've locked away parts of your soul, not just the pain, but the wisdom buried within the pain. Every thought, even the ones that disturb you, carries something essential. They are not random noise. They are signals sent from the deep to call your attention. To repress them is to ignore the messages of your own psyche. True inner strength does not come from silencing the parts of you that hurt. It comes from listening to them without being consumed. It comes from meeting your shadows face to face, and instead of turning away, saying, "I see you, I hear you, come, sit beside me, tell me what I need to understand." This is not weakness, it is courage of the highest kind, because to feel a thought fully, without running, without judgment, is to integrate it, and integration is the real path to transformation. A thought, once heard and understood, loses its grip. It no longer needs to shout. It no longer needs to hide. It becomes part of your story, not the whole story, but a part you no longer fear. So when you feel the rising tension of an unwanted thought, pause before you exile it. Ask yourself, why are you here? What do you want me to see? And listen, for what you repress today will become the burden of your tomorrow, but what you face today, with honesty and compassion, will become the wisdom of your becoming. They never told you this, because control sounds cleaner than chaos. But there is no control without understanding, and there is no understanding without the willingness to welcome what we were taught to avoid. Repression is not control, it is abandonment, and you deserve to live as a whole being, not just the parts you've been told are acceptable. Your mind is not a single space, lit clearly and neatly arranged. It is a vast house, ancient in some places, newly built in others. Some rooms you visit every day, your logical mind, your daily worries, your future plans. These rooms are familiar, even comfortable, like a well-worn chair or the smell of old wood that reminds you of something stable. You know the layout, you keep them tidy because they are seen by others, by yourself. You take guests there, you take pride in their order, but this house is much bigger than you think. It has doors you rarely open and corridors you avoid. There are rooms buried deep within where the air is thick with forgotten memories, unresolved grief, unrealized dreams, and suppressed rage. Some of these rooms haven't been entered in years. You might not even remember they exist. But they do, and what lives in them is still alive, waiting, watching, shaping your life from the shadows. You see, most people live in only a fraction of their house. They stay in the lit rooms because that's where they feel safe, where they can see. But just because a room is dark doesn't mean it is empty. In fact, those unvisited rooms are often the source of the thoughts you can't explain, the sudden sadness, the unexplained dread, the irrational anger. You try to control those thoughts from your bright rooms, but they don't come from there. They come from the locked doors below, where emotions and ideas you weren't ready to feel were placed like old furniture you couldn't bear to throw away. And so control becomes an illusion. You're trying to manage the whole house from a single room, but to truly understand your mind, to truly engage with your thoughts, you must become the curious traveler of your own architecture. You must be willing to walk through unfamiliar halls, open doors you once locked in fear or shame, and step into rooms covered in dust. Some will be painful. They may be filled with echoes of your childhood, your unmet needs, your mistakes. But others will surprise you. Some forgotten rooms are filled with beauty, old talents you abandoned, parts of yourself that once dreamed freely, memories of innocence, of imagination, of strength you didn't know you still had. Each room is a piece of you. None of them are mistakes. They are fragments of your wholeness, and until you visit them, you cannot truly say you know yourself. What you call a thought problem may actually be a room you've neglected. What you label as anxiety could be the voice of a part of you locked away, calling out to be seen. So, instead of seeking control, seek exploration. Walk your inner halls. Take a lantern of awareness and step where you haven't dared to tread. Sit with what you find there. Listen. Not every room needs renovation. Some simply need your presence. And in time, you may find that peace does not come from shutting out the rooms that disturb you. It comes from opening them. From accepting that the house is not perfect, but it is yours, and every room, even the ones that once frightened you, has something sacred to offer. They never told you that the mind isn't something to dominate, it's something to discover. And only those brave enough to explore every room will ever feel truly at home within themselves. We live in an age that worships logic, that elevates reason to the highest throne. We are taught to solve problems with facts, to argue with evidence, to dismiss anything that cannot be measured or quantified. Yet, beneath this surface of clarity and precision lies a far older language, one that is often ignored, dismissed, or forgotten. It is the language of symbols. Symbols are not just pretty images or vague metaphors. They are the soul's way of speaking when words fail. When the conscious mind cannot grasp the full truth, when emotions are too deep for sentences, symbols emerge. They arise from the depths of your unconscious, carrying meaning that transcends everyday logic. They are bridges between what is hidden and what is known, between the seen and the unseen. Consider the dream. A dream is never literal. It speaks not in sentences but in images, in figures, in symbols. A snake, a house, water. Each carries a message, a feeling, a truth that logic alone cannot capture. Your mind does not hand you answers in neat paragraphs. It offers you stories, myths, archetypes that echo across time and culture. These symbols resonate with something ancient inside you, a universal language encoded in the human psyche. Why do symbols speak louder than logic? Because logic divides and separates. It breaks experience into parts, cause and effect, right and wrong, true and false. But the psyche does not work in parts. It moves in wholeness, in paradox, in mystery. Symbols hold contradictions together. They invite you to feel, to imagine, to wonder. They reach beyond the limits of rational thought and open you to insights that cannot be reasoned into existence. When you try to control your thoughts with pure logic, you often miss their deeper meaning. A thought that makes no sense on the surface might be a symbol calling your attention to a need, a fear, or a truth buried beneath layers of consciousness. The mind's logic can be rigid and blunt, but symbols are fluid and rich. They speak to the heart and the soul, not just the intellect. Symbols also invite transformation. When you engage with them, you are not just decoding a message. You are entering into a relationship with parts of yourself that are alive and dynamic. You become a participant in a deeper dance. The symbol changes as you change. It opens doors to creativity, healing, and new understanding. It is not something to be conquered, but something to be embraced. So next time a thought troubles you, or an emotion confuses you, look for its symbol. What images arise? What feelings come with them? These are your psyche's way of guiding you beyond the limits of logic, into the fertile ground of mystery and meaning. They never told you that to truly control your thoughts, you must first learn to listen to the symbols they bring. Because in symbols, the mind speaks its deepest truth. Truths no logic alone could ever reveal. The common belief is that to be sane, to be strong, to be truly yourself, you must control your thoughts. You must command your mind like a general commands an army, strict discipline, total obedience. But this notion is a myth, a dangerous one that sets you up for endless struggle, because your thoughts are not soldiers to be ordered around. They are more like travelers on a shared journey, guests in the house of your mind, sometimes friends, sometimes strangers. To control your thoughts is to seek domination, and domination breeds resistance. The harder you push against a thought, the more it pushes back. Trying to suppress or force your mind into submission is like trying to hold water in your fist. Eventually, it slips through, spilling over in unexpected ways. Anxiety returns with greater intensity, worries multiply, and the thoughts you fight become louder, more persistent. What if, instead of control, you shifted your approach? What if you saw your thoughts not as enemies or intruders, but as parts of yourself seeking to be heard? To relate to your thoughts is to cultivate a relationship, a dance of curiosity, patience, and acceptance. It means recognizing that thoughts are visitors with messages, not commands to be obeyed or battles to be won. Relating to your thoughts means observing them without judgment. When a troubling thought arises, you don't have to believe it, act on it, or push it away. You can watch it as you would a cloud passing through the sky. acknowledging its presence without letting it define the weather of your mind. This shift from control to relationship brings space, space where thoughts lose their power to overwhelm, because they are no longer fed by your struggle. Moreover, relating to your thoughts invites dialogue. What is this thought trying to tell you? What need lies beneath it? Sometimes, what seems like a harmful or irrational thought is a cry from a neglected part of your inner world, a fear, a grief, a longing. By listening, you can respond with compassion rather than repression. This transforms the thought from a disruptive force into an ally on your path. In this way, your mind becomes less of a battlefield and more of a garden. Thoughts are seeds, some wild, some tender. Through relation, you learn which to nurture and which to gently let go. You cultivate an inner landscape where thoughts coexist, interact, and grow in harmony. This is not passivity or surrender. It is a deeper, more mature form of mastery, mastery through acceptance and awareness rather than force. It requires courage to face the whole of your mind, to hold the uncomfortable and the unknown without flinching. But in this courageous relationship with your thoughts, you discover freedom, not freedom from your thoughts, but freedom within them. They never told you that the mind is not a machine to be controlled, but a mystery to be known. And that true power lies not in domination, but in connection.